All right, welcome in. It is Friday. It is time for Total Bases. Bryan, Leonard, I had the Mariners yesterday. It did not go well. I'm punishing myself by wearing this hoodie or this sweatshirt. Fairfield Stags, of course, a rival of my college, the Siena College Saints, but I also just like the sweatshirt. And they're not a real rival because they're not going to challenge us at the top of the league. So at any rate, we're here to talk some baseball. Me and you today, we've got two games. Let's just get right into it. Let's go back to that game, Mariners Blue Jays. I had the Mariners yesterday, Bryan, and they didn't really show up. Once again, the bats weren't there, and I'll tip the cap. I didn't think Max Scherzer had it in him. He pitched well, and the Blue Jays are back in this series, 2-2. We head to a game 5 tonight. So how's your day going? And kick us off with Mariners Blue Jays.
Yeah, I'm in the same way. I stunk in baseball yesterday. I had small play on the Mariners when it got down to all the money came in on Toronto. You can get Seattle at home at like 117. I couldn't pass that up. So I had the small 1.5 star, whatever percentage on that. Well, my big play yesterday was Seattle to score over 1.5 runs in the first 5, which, as I said, Scherzer had gone 25 innings, given up 25 earned runs. I thought it was a desperate situation to throw him out there. Hats off to Max Scherzer. He made me look like an idiot, and I feel like an idiot. They scored 1 run in the second inning, and that was it. He shut him down the rest of the way. It happens. He's a professional pitcher, and these things happen. And I also was wrong. I go, well, he's 41 years old. When they come out to get him, he's, and then he pulled his old self, which you like to have, but still, as a manager, you hate to get embarrassed like that. But I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I apologize for everybody who bought that 5% yesterday, and we'll try to get it back. I've been so hot in baseball, I just assumed that that was going to happen, and it didn't happen. I was wrong. Seattle's bats just didn't show up again.
Bryan, I'm right there with you. That game did not go as I thought it would at all. I thought Luis Castillo I thought he would at least at minimum match Scherzer. I felt like he came in just the far better option. He had been pitching great for a month or so, had some nice time off between starts. But I guess I'll go back to the kind of point I've made at different points in time during the playoffs. I did the MGM show a couple days ago, and they they quoted me from the show, and I said something to the respect of, these series, like the series can flip on a moment's notice, right? Like maybe not the other series we're going to talk about when you see that one team is outclassing the other, but even through the first 2 games, like to me, there was never anything to suggest that like these two teams still weren't very evenly matched. Now, I didn't play game 3. Yeah, yesterday I got the game wrong, but it was like my mindset was never, Seattle's just going to come in and dominate. I just liked how game 4 set up better for them. So it's like that, I think is because this is a handicapping show, and we're trying to also talk about just our thought process and how we approach these games in this series and almost any of these playoff series. I'm still. It's almost like a reset every day, right? It's like a fresh slate. I'm still looking at the game for what the game is, for who the 2 starting pitchers are, what the usage is from out of the bullpen. I will say, though, I do think being up 2-0 kept me off the Mariners game in game 3, which I'm kind of happy about because they obviously lost game 3. I'll just throw it over to you. Does your process vary from that at all in the playoffs? Because I think it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I went with just the over in game 3, and my first thing I thought of with this last game, I said, well, 7.5. I said, you got to play the over. I wish I'd went with my initial thought, but you got to look at your situation. Like yesterday, I talked about in the game. I said, this is the Brewers. One game where I think they have a chance, and I used the Brewers as a free play, and it looked pretty good when it was 1-1, but the better team and the healthier team came out, the healthier pitching staff came out and won that game, and but now that it's 3-0, going to be tough for the Brewers to go at this point. So, yeah, it matters a lot of what happened in the last game, which kind of sucks because we try to put our stuff up as early as possible. The show is at, like I said, 6 a.m. out here in Pacific. The hockey show, a lot of times they'll want my play ahead of from the night before. I don't know what's happened, but they got to set up the graphics and the whole bit. So, yeah, your mind changes based on what happened in the prior game, and as it should.
Well, Bryan, it's certainly how the market seems to work, right? Like maybe not after one game, but it does seem like if after you get two results, and I'll make this parallel to the game that we're going to talk about right now. It seems like after you get two results that go a certain way, that's when the shift occurs, and that's what we're seeing here. So the Mariners, this will be their third home game. They've lost the first two. In the first two games, it was minus 120, minus 125. Yesterday, I jumped into. I couldn't. I sat there all day, and then when it got down to minus 114, I had to grab it yesterday. Now you're looking at the Mariners as a slight underdog at home. So do you think that that's an overreaction, or do you think this matchup warrants the Blue Jays being a slight favorite on the road?
Well, we're looking at right now, according to the Odds Logic website, which I just rolled out of bed just again today. Bad day. Gausman's going against Miller, and you're right. Gausman's about a 110 favorite here, total of about 7 minus 120 to the over a little bit. Well, Gausman is more established than Miller is. Miller did have a good start last time out, and he's had a lot of bad starts before that. So, yeah, anytime you score as many runs as Toronto has scored the last 2 days, you would expect money to come that way. So I'm not surprised that Toronto's favored, and it is the lesser of the starters for Seattle, whereas it's probably your best starter for Toronto. So, yeah, it makes sense that Toronto would be favored in this one.
So I guess as far as the game is concerned, and kind of, so this is where I think makes betting postseason baseball so challenging, right? Is that you are in a series. It's no different than the regular season where you've got teams that play series, right? Like that's the one nice thing about baseball as opposed to some of the other sports. I think is you're not. That you get to a postseason in like the NBA or the NHL, and it's kind of like this foreign. Oh, okay, so we've been traveling all over the country. Now we're going to play a team 7 times in the span of however many days. Baseball, this is kind of the norm, playing a team 3 or 4 times. But for me, the last 2 days I've liked Seattle. The last 2 days that's just where my handicap landed. The last 2 days they've lost. Starting pitching dictates a lot of what the handicap is. I look here and say, okay, I played Bryce Miller and I cashed my game 1 bet on the Mariners plus 1.5. This was the pitching matchup. Bryce Miller on the mound. I was getting a 1.5 though, and I felt like given the situation, that was good value and that he could be good enough. Going into this matchup though, I look at the StatCast page. There's a lot to be concerned with, in my opinion. Suddenly, the Mariners aren't hitting, which is also a concern. And I think Gausman's just the better option. So even this is the challenge for me personally, is like I want to, part of me wants to be stubborn and say, well, the Mariners get it today, right? Like I was wrong about them in game 3 and game 4, but they got to get it here. But then I look at this matchup and I'm like, well, my numbers like the Jays. My brain tells me Gausman is the superior starter to Miller. And suddenly the Blue Jays are hitting. So it's like that if let's just say game 3 and game 4 in my brain never happened, right? Like I didn't have to sit there miserable last night and watch my Mariners bet lose and go up in flames. I'm probably on the Blue Jays here, but I did have to experience that. And now I'm sitting here like, am I just going to look like a fool coming out and betting the Blue Jays and then the Mariners show up in game 5? That's, I guess, the challenge of betting playoff baseball and probably why I won't be on this game.
Yeah. It's also guys that have faced the opponent before. In fact, Miller, he's had 2 playoff. He struggled during the regular season. We all know that. but he's had 2 playoff games. He went against the Tigers, gave up 2 earned runs and 4 in the third. Not bad. Only 4 hits, no walks. 0.92 whip. So he pitched pretty well in that one. And then he faced this Toronto team up in Toronto, and he went 6 innings, gave up 1 earned run, 2 hits. He did struggle with his walks. He had 3 walks in that game, only 3 strikeouts. He has not been dominant from the strikeout perspective. He's only struck out 5 guys in the playoffs and 10 in the third innings. Usually when you see a team that just saw that starter recently, I like to go opposite of what happened earlier. And granted, Gausman pitched pretty well in his game. I believe he gave up 2 runs when he faced Seattle, but I wouldn't expect another start out of that like Miller had in his last time. From a hitting standpoint, both these teams are very good hitting teams. You're still looking at that 7 on the total, and since both teams have seen these pitchers and both pitchers had success against them before, I hate to go back to the over, but hey, if it ain't broken, that's the way I would take a look at this. I would think Toronto would have a little bit more success against Miller this time. So, yeah, Toronto team total over, the game total over seems to be the way I would look at this one. Seattle's got to be a little bit shocked because they've been a really good team at home all year long, just as Toronto has. And yet nobody has won a home game in this series. In fact, I believe last night the Dodgers win at home was the first one in this round of the playoffs where the home team has won. So I always say that the home field doesn't have nearly the advantage in any sport when you get to the playoffs because the teams that are there are good. They've won on the road before, and so it's less of a home advantage during the playoffs as it is for the regular season. So after as bad as my pick was yesterday, I'm a little shell-shocked myself in that regard, but still, I've seen nothing to think that this game is going to go under the total. I think the over is probably the way to play this.
3 straight overs so far in this series, all pretty much easy. I mean, the game 2 and game 3 were over by a mile. Even yesterday, I mean, it kind of gets there with some room to spare. I'm from a number standpoint, 7 is too light. Like that to me, when you look at some of the struggles Miller has had, the fact that I pulled Gausman's lineup from game 1. He pitched pretty good, 5 2/3. He still gave up 2 runs on 3 hits. It's not that the Mariners couldn't get to him. Yeah, that 7 flat seems very low. Like the fact that you could get to 3-3 and have a free roll opportunity seems like almost too good to be true in a game like this. So the more we kind of talk about it back and forth from a straight up numbers value perspective on the total, I would have to say you have to play over 7, especially if it's like -110, -115, which it does appear to be right now. You really like it. I think they're going to look at it. People are going to look at it and say, well, these two pitchers and these 2 teams faced off in game 1, and it was a 3-1 final. But that was like in my opinion, a much different scenario than this game. On the same token, Brian, you had game 1. You had Kevin Gausman was like a $1.75, $1.80 favorite at one point in this same pitching matchup in game 1. I mean, it really was not it was a competitive game, and the Mariners just happened to end up on the right side of a 3-1 game. So now Gausman's now he's only -110. Same matchup. We're going to move that 70 cents in the matter of a couple days. I actually think the Jays and the over are the value here, and I just don't know if I can stomach either. But I think that's where the value is in this game.
You can find Gausman out there right now at about, let's just the Toronto team total over at 3.5, even money, or basically even money just about everywhere right now. So if Toronto gets 4 runs, I think it accomplishes both. And the way Miller's pitched for most of the year, that would be something to take a look at. But once again, because Toronto has had the lead the last couple of games, the Seattle bullpen is in pretty good shape. But that's maybe first half. I went with first half team total over yesterday and got burned, but that might not be a bad situation here. Let me check that out right here. At the current
while you check that out, I'll throw it out there. Like, yes, the Seattle bullpen hasn't been used, but when the Blue Jays are hitting, and they are now, I think we can now officially say they're hitting. I mean, this lineup 1-9 is going to be able to make some noise against just about anyone. Like, yeah, maybe if they get into the ninth inning and it's Munoz coming in and slam the door, I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit worried about the Jays against the Mariners bullpen. Anyone else, not that concerned with when this lineup is clicking 1-9. That's really something that I think you're gonna, if the Blue Jays win this series, when we get to the World Series and you look back on how things went for them, you're gonna look at the bottom of that order, guys like Ernie Clement, Andres Jimenez, and the at-bats they put together, and you're just like 1-9. There's no breaks in this lineup. That is a kind of like the mark of a championship team, in my opinion, a little bit.
Yeah, the first half Toronto team total is 1.5 over -125 or -130. That's a better line than what we saw yesterday with Scherzer. I believe I had to lay 150 in that regard. So yeah, any of those ways to play this game, either team totals over first half of game and the game total over, is the way I would look at it. I'm not. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's the way I would look at it.
I was going to say I'm at about 7.8 on the total. So the fact that you can get a flat 7, I think is good value. That's probably the best of anything in that game that I think we've talked about. I think that's flat 7 is really nice value on the total. I want to go to the chat for a second. Great question here. I think it's worth, especially since we have a little extra time and a 2-game show, I think it's worth some attention. Jersey Tugging Sports in the chat says, can you explain how to use the odds logic screen, Bryan Leonard? Let's say you look at it. What does money come that way mean, and what it means when the odds change? I'll throw it to you. I think this is more like general, like how to read an odds screen, okay, which it will kind of sort of come with experience using the site. Do you have, I guess, can you throw him just some general tips as to how to read the odds logic screen?
Sure. First of all, you can rearrange any books you want on here, and which is what I do. I put to the left the places where I have bet and I've struggled. I haven't had a lot of profit. I put on the right the weaker books, your DraftKings, your FanDuels, your ESPN bets, and also all the places I've had success. So if you see one half where, for example, a quick look at the right now. If you're watching it right now, we got in the in the NBA preseason, we're looking at Minnesota, Philadelphia. The sharper books are at about 219 on the total, and some of the others are a little bit different. You're looking at DraftKings, you're looking at ESPN Bet, and you're looking at Bet MGM. Basically 219, FanDuel 219.5. Well, now Heritage just went down to 218. So the sharp books are telling you that should be under. And what you want to do is you want to look across. You say, oh, FanDuel's got a certain number out there, 219.5 to the under. So it's early. I wouldn't look at it this way now because it's so early and none of the big money's come in. But as the day goes on, you could see where the lines are moving in certain books. And if it's the sharp books, those are the ones where by that time of the day when they're getting the bigger money in, you could take a look at that and say, hey, I think that's where this is going. If you already like that side, you can take the number at the other place and get a little bit better number than what's available at the sharper books. But it's telling you what they brought in. And I've talked in the past about certain books being places that really every sport. There's certain places I don't bet soccer. I don't follow soccer. Don't know anything about it. But there's certain books out there, and Carmine is a soccer guy. You can always ask him that. What books are the ones that are the sharp books in soccer? And you can take a look at that because there's a lot of these places don't bring in a lot of money. Like here in Vegas, for the most part, I don't think they bring in a lot of money in soccer. So you can maybe play the local Vegas books. But that's what I look at. And if I see all the sharper books, at least for me, that I consider sharp going one direction, and the lesser books that I've had success in, not moving it yet, I can go in there and grab a good number.
Great stuff. And that odds logic screen is very helpful. Like, here's the thing, like any of the products out there, the more you sort of use it and trial and error, asking questions is absolutely the way to go. You'll just kind of get used to it. And any product like that I've used, it really just takes time kind of using it and figuring it out. But I mean, I feel like I've seen them all at this point, and I'm very impressed with odds logic. I think it's great. So an app for the cost, it's like a kind of a no-brainer. It's relative to like what some of the other products out there cost. So a very good option. Yeah, no, that was great, Bryan. Let's continue on. We have another game to talk about here. Believe it or not, the series is still going on. It feels like, as I watch it, it's like a foregone conclusion that it's ending. But hey, you know what? There's something to be said for, like, it's a new day. The score is 0-0. The Brewers still get to come out and play baseball today. It's game 4. They pulled a fast one on me. I thought we were going to see Jose Quintana yesterday. They made the move to go to Mizorowski after the opener. And that move, well, I mean, it backfired, but hey, the Dodgers just continue to play great ball. I don't think the Brewers have necessarily played poorly. They're just running into the best team in the league, playing great ball, getting great efforts from all of their pitchers. What do you even do there, Bryan? Like, you know, you almost just have to tip the cap. But at the same token, it's a new day. Do you have any faith in Milwaukee getting back in this series tonight?
Yeah, you mentioned the Quintana situation, and as I said on the hockey show yesterday, as they changed goalies on one of my free plays the day before, you can only go with the information you have. And Quintana was supposed to be the bulk inning guy yesterday. Well, Mizorowski came in, and I thought Mizorowski pitched very well, dominating strikeouts. Didn't have the walk problems that he had in the past. The last 2 times out, he's taken a little bit off of his fastball, and it's worked for him. So I'm excited about his future with Milwaukee, and I'm sure they are too, because if you can get a guy that can blow it by somebody like he can, and he can control it a little bit better than what he's had in the minors and somewhat in the majors, it's something to look forward to. We had mentioned off air all the pitchers that Milwaukee has had, and they were so many great starters all year long. And now they've come up with injuries, and some guys have missed. And the Dodgers, the opposite. The Dodgers all season long struggled with their rotation, had a lot of guys in there, but now their best guys are all healthy. So if this series had been played a month ago, it may have had a different outcome. But right now, you're looking at the Dodgers with their full starting rotation out there, in Milwaukee at this point just trying to find somebody who can get them some innings. It's undecided right now who the starter is, but it'll probably be a 1-inning guy coming in as an opener. It won't be Ashby again. He's pitched 3 of the last 4 days, but we will see. Like you said, we will see a little bit of Jose Quintana. I have more faith in Quintana than a lot of people do, but I don't know if I want Milwaukee in this game. We're looking at Ohtani's on the mound, and he has not done anything with the bats. So knowing his personality and the way he works, I would expect him to be on in this game from a pitching standpoint. At least he can help his team. You're looking at about 185 to 190 out there for the Dodgers right now. Total of 8, slightly to the under, 7.5, slightly to the over. I said yesterday, that game for Milwaukee was the one they needed to have. They used Mizorowski for 73 pitches. They had Uribe out there. He has now pitched 3 out of the last 4 games. He's been their closer lately. They don't really trust McGill, who's coming back from injury. And Koenig threw 24. Ashby, as I mentioned, has thrown 3 out of the last 4 days. So they're going to lose a little bit of the back end of the bullpen in that. But, you know, the Dodgers, you take a look at what the Dodgers have done, and obviously the closer came out yesterday and he looked great again. He had one little misstep. He's the first pitcher in history to have no saves in the regular season and have 3 saves in the playoffs. Suzuki's pitched great, but they did use 4 of their 5 bullpen arms yesterday. I had Sheehan warming up in the bullpen. I really like Sheehan. I think he's got a really good future for this team. But they've got quality guys. Kasparaitis out there, Kershaw. They haven't used them in the playoffs as of yet. So the Dodgers are pretty well set. They had the last 2 days, didn't need them at all. And they've got in my opinion, a pretty good pitching advantage here. And it's clear now that Will Smith will catch every game. And that means that the Brewers will not be able to steal bases. And the way pitching's gone for the Dodgers, they got to get on base, and they haven't had many hits. So only one way for me to look in this game, and that would be Ohtani and the Dodgers. And normally a team is down 3-0 in the playoffs. I think they're done. But this Milwaukee team, if you follow them all year long, how many times would we expect, or were we expecting them to have a letdown, or this is the time that they're going to let the opposition back in? No, they've been full bore all year long. But some of the looks and some of the comments out of this Milwaukee, the players, the interviews with the players, they're saying what they're supposed to say, but the tone in their voice, the looks on their faces are like they're shell shocked. And it's not a team I want to play right now. So it'll be the Dodgers or nothing for me. And I'll look to play something for the Dodgers, but I don't want to lay $2 in the game. So that's how I would look at it.
All right, let me let me make the counter argument just for argument's sake here, since we're trying to break down the game, and do it from all angles. Like, so couple things here. Someone asked in the chat. Of course, I somehow managed to lose the comment. Not sure how I clicked off of that, but anyway, they said something to the extent of like, who's the starter for the Brewers? They haven't really been announcing their starters. So yeah, that, like I said in the open, that threw me for a little bit of a loop yesterday. I thought they would probably use Quintana. They didn't. They went Mizorowski in Game 3 after an opener. It will be Jose Quintana today. As from a standpoint of he's going to throw the most innings, at least unless Pat Murphy has, a surprise for us that no one expects. Like, he's likely going to be the person that throws the bulk of the innings today. Now, I assume he's just going to start because he's a lefty, and the idea is the only really reason to use an opener if you're the Brewers against the Dodgers, like an Ashby, like yesterday. Mm-hmm. Is to bring in the lefty to face Ohtani and Freeman before you bring in your right-handed starter. So with the fact that Quintana's a lefty, I don't see any reason for the Brewers to use an opener. It's likely just going to be Quintana, and then they'll go from there. So I'm going to go back to the last series. If you look at who the Dodgers struggled with a little bit against the Phillies, it was Ranger Suarez after he came in Game 3 after Aaron Nola, 5 innings of 1-run ball. He's kind of a lefty that, I'm not saying Quintana's better than him by any means, but they throw some of the same stuff. I think they have some of the same idea in terms of how they want to attack opposing hitters. And then the following day was, of course, the day that the Phillies ended up losing in extra innings. That was Christopher Sanchez, who pitched a pretty good game. He went 6 1/3 1-run on 5 hits. So the Dodgers, like, against that, I'm not saying Quintana is those two. I certainly think Suarez and Sanchez are better, but he's a veteran, and they've got, almost the same thing with Max Scherzer almost applies here to Quintana. Yes. Like, he's been around forever. The moment is not going to be too big for him, right? And if he's going out there and executing his pitches, he can turn in a start that looks like one of those starts from the Phillies last round when their two lefties did very well against this lineup. Now, the other thing that I think you have to note here is Ohtani, when he pitches, his numbers are worse. So if you're looking at the Dodgers, it's not like the Dodgers have absolutely knocked the cover off the ball in this series. It's been very much pitching that's won the Dodgers these games. First game 1, they scored 2 runs, ended up winning 2-1. Game 2, they kind of tacked on here and there, but it was like a 2-out hit. I think it was a 2-out. It was a solo home run followed by a couple 2-out hits to get the lead in Game 2. And then last night's game is 3-1. So, it's not like the Dodgers are out here playing beer league softball, Bryan, where it's 10, 11 runs and everyone's hitting. They're just doing enough just to win. And so to me, it's like you're going to probably lower Ohtani's value from an offensive standpoint with the fact that he's on the mound. Now, you got to look at lineups. I assume Will Smith will be behind the dish, but hey, 3 games in 3 days, you got a 3-0 lead in the series. Does he decide? Does maybe he say, well, we'll throw him a day off? Probably not, but it's I guess it's something to keep an eye on. I don't think this is the worst matchup for the Brewers. And then I start to look at the market, and I'm hoping that everyone else has the same thought process of like, well, this is over. Dodgers or nothing. Like it can't possibly go any other way. Because I think if this came down 10 to 15 cents, I'd be down to take a shot with Brewers plus 1.5. You're getting the road team. You get the extra at bat. These games, these games really have been close. I mean, it's been Dodgers tacking on runs. All 3 games, it was a close game where the Dodgers just kind of tacked on a run. Even game 1 was a 1-0 game. They scored 2-0. They win 2-1. So I think the best thing on the board for me today, at least as it stands right now, is Brewers plus 1.5. And I'm hoping that as the masses start to wake up, I know. Shout out to Bryan Leonard again. He does the show at 6 a.m. West Coast time every morning. And I see every time we do this show, as the show goes on, I see the viewer count go up. And I think it's because for 2 reasons. I think, maybe we do have some live viewers in here, but the West Coast people start to wake up. And when the West Coast people start to wake up, and as the day goes on and they start to bet, it's playoff baseball. It's probably the one time of the year where the betting public can sort of influence the number, maybe a little bit more. I don't think the betting public's ever influencing a number in the regular season. But with the postseason handle, I feel like it works more like a standalone football game in a sense. If it's just an influx of Dodgers money and this Brewers line moves a little bit and suddenly I can get plus 1.5 at, let's say, minus 120, minus 115, that might be where your boy ends up today. Something's telling me the Brewers might have 1 in them. At least an effort. And if they give an effort and they lose by 1, you're cashing your ticket anyway. So that's my counter to your argument right there, Bryan.
Yeah, it's 6:30 out now in Vegas. The sports books don't actually open until 8, but they do. They all have kiosks and they have telephone accounts, but they're limited. You can't get as much in at this time of the day as you could later. That's not going to affect the general public, but it will affect the guys who are betting for a living. So that will come later on. So you'll see that later on. I went back and looked at Quintana. He did pitch 3 innings against the Cubs in the playoffs on the 8th, and it was very good. Then his last start in the regular season was August 14th. He threw 4 innings against the Cardinals. So he hasn't pitched a lot lately. They do throw on the side and all, so that made. It's not a huge deal, but we saw Scherzer coming back from a big layoff and looked good yesterday. The thing that got me was that I was wrong about was his velocity because he was more rested. I didn't give that enough credit because he was throwing 2 miles an hour faster yesterday than he had been his last few starts. But I'm not going to change my opinion on the game, which isn't much, but. Yeah, good breakdown, but I just haven't seen enough out of this Milwaukee team. Now, if they're in the game and they have a big inning, let's say they score 3 in the first or second, then they may wake up and say, "Hey, we this is our game," and you'll see the old Brewers. But right now, that's a team that's a little bit shell shocked, I believe.
I'm going to go to a comment here. We've got a lot of viewers here, and I want to take some questions from the chat while we have time. I got to disagree with this one, but I think a lot of people don't understand why teams use an opener. So I'm going to try to explain this, and then you can counter. So using an opener is dumb. Dodgers went left, right, left yesterday to counter that move. Okay, so yes, the Dodgers had I guess an answer for anything the Brewers was going to do. But now I'm going to bring up Colin's question just as the second part of this, or Colin's statement. At best, Quintana goes 5. Okay. The reason that you use an opener and the reason it's not dumb is because you're basically saying, I know that this starting pitcher is going to probably only go 4 or 5 innings. I know at some point we are going to need to use a reliever in a big spot against the Dodgers' best hitters. So what these teams are doing, shout out Lou Piniella, I think he was the one that figured this out when he was with the Rays, was like, I'm going to take my best reliever and put them in the situation that they might be in the 5th or 6th inning, and I'm going to do it in the 1st inning. The reason it's not dumb, it's something out of necessity, Bryan. Like if I go to the gym, if I go to the gym and I throw weights on the bench press, like you can bet I'm having someone spot me. because I'm just not strong enough to be banging out bench presses, no problem, not kill myself. Okay. It's kind of like baseball. If you got Tariq Skubal, you're not really worried about the spotter. You're like, no problem. Go rep 150 or whatever you got on the bar there. You're good. Okay. If you got Yamamoto or someone like that, you're good. That's not a problem. We expect you to go 7. When you have someone that you don't trust to go more than 4 or 5 innings, or that the plan is not to go more than 4 or 5 innings, the opener makes complete sense, because you are now guaranteeing that you get the matchup with your reliever, the one that you want, against the hitters that you wanted against. So that is why teams have adopted that. It's more of a widespread thing. Teams have adopted the opener, and that's why, as a bettor, I think you sort of like having the opener, because it's basically you go into the game knowing, okay, I know Ashby is a lefty. Now, again, it backfired yesterday, but you're going into the game knowing I'm going to get Ashby here, who's been a pretty good lefty reliever, against 2 left-handed hitters, right? Like, that's what you're going to get. I found myself gravitating toward betting on sides that have the opener where I know the guy coming in after him is someone I like. So that's just my comment to that. I actually think it's the opposite. I think it's sort of genius. And yeah, every once in a while it's going to backfire, but I would say it works more often than not.
Well, Tampa Bay was the team that started it. And yeah, granted, it's frustrating. It's more frustrating from a betting standpoint, because I've been around for doing this for 45 years. You know to bet, you list your starters, because if all of a sudden they make a change and you don't want that guy in there, so you're stuck with that line. So that's something that's happened years ago when they didn't have such a thing such as the starters, or the openers, excuse me. But Tampa Bay did it, and Tampa Bay is one of the smartest organizations in baseball. Then other teams started to do it, and they copied it. The reason why Milwaukee does it is, let's just take a look at Ohtani. This is regular season. This is before this slump in the playoffs. He's basically had twice as many plate appearances against righties than lefties. So all you really have to do is double up his numbers against lefties to show you the differential between lefties and righties. First of all, the OPS against lefties, 898. The OPS against righties, 1077, almost 200 points higher in that regard. Slugging, 554 against lefties, 666 or 661 slugging. On base percentage, 344, 416. The way he's had 15 home runs in 244 at bats against lefties. He's had 40 home runs in 483. So if you were to double the home runs, basically is what we've done on everything else, you would have 30 home runs versus lefties, 40 home runs versus righties. That's a big reason to bring a lefty in there. And you do bring a lefty in there because that's one less at bat that he's going to have against the guy pitching. And that gives if Milwaukee was using a right-hander in this game, that's one less Ohtani at bat that he has to face. And most hitters, the lefty right, I know a lot of people don't like the lefty right. There's a reason why the teams that do the lefty righty splits have all had a lot of success. Look at Cleveland, look at Tampa Bay. There's Minnesota to a pretty good extent does a lot of that. But the teams that do it have had success over the years with lower payroll teams. Now you get a team like, say, the Dodgers want to do something like that, a huge payroll team, or the Yankees. They don't do a lot of that. The Yankees a little bit more than what the Dodgers do from a pitching standpoint. But when you've got the excellent starters the Dodgers have, you don't need to do that. But when you're a lower level team you can't afford the players that the Dodgers do. The Brewers have to do that, and the other teams do it. It makes the teams more competitive. And anytime you can make a team that's not nearly paying the players as much as the other teams are, you've got to find ways to do it. And that's one of the ways that they have done it over the last few years. And even in the sports books now, a lot of times where you used to have to specify the starting pitchers, you've got to do that now, and it doesn't automatically come that way. You've got to hit a button to specify them, as opposed before you'd had to specify no No,
Yep.
you're not backing it on the starters there. So times have changed. A lot of us don't like change, but I believe it's for the better of the lesser teams in baseball, and it's made the league more competitive over the years. If you just discount teams like Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, and David says if it isn't dumb, then why hasn't it been the norm in the regular season? It is the norm. There's like probably 1 or 2 games a day that minimum, at least 1 or 2 a day that are using an opener, and it's not that it really is just out of necessity. And the reason that you're seeing it so often, starting pitchers are just unicorns now. They're just the way that these kids throw, the way that the demand on the pitcher's body and the way that they throw, you're just not finding many guys that can go out consistently, throw 6 or 7 innings and not get hurt. So it's like, I truly don't think any team wants to use an opener. Okay. I don't think any team's out there like, yeah, can't wait to trot Andy Ashby out there for an inning right here. It is totally something they do out of necessity. And the Brewers have gotten themselves into a position where like they don't have starters right now. Woodruff hurt, a couple other guys hurt. And then the ones they do have are not guys that they want another team to see a third time through the order. So it's the lesser of two evils. It's, do we start the game with this guy, have him go 3 innings and bring our guy in, or do we start the game traditional and know that we might be in the bullpen in the 4th or 5th inning? That, I think, is just a judgment call on the coach. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it's just the way that some guys play it as opposed to others. I do think so. The person in the chat that asked about Mizorowski, it's probably a case-by-case, person-by-person basis. Like some guys have thrived coming in after the opener, like guys that have Colin Ray was one where I felt like as a starter, he wasn't great, but you gave him an inning to chill, and you bring him in after the opener, and he was awesome. Priester had a really good run this year for a long time, coming in after the opener. So again, I don't know there's a rhyme or reason to it, but I do think it's more of a necessity thing, and that's just, it's a good conversation. We had a few minutes to chat, but I don't think a team using an opener should be putting you off playing that team. That's sometimes where I think people gloss over the handicap and they're like, oh, well, this guy is starting. It's like, you need to know that that's not the starter. You need to know that the starter is Quintana or whoever it's going to be. That's how you should be basing your handicap should be based off the guy that's pitching bulk. And so I think during the regular season, there's a lot of value if you sort of know and can kind of track what teams are going to do with their pitching, because oftentimes they just throw a number out based on whoever that opener is. Okay, we have sort of beat these 2 games to death, talked about openers, talked about odds logic, tried to give you 45 minutes of good betting content, even though there's only 2 games. With the last 2 minutes, Brian Leonard, do you have anything to promote for today?
Yeah, I've got this is the Friday college football. Been on a tremendous run. I believe 12-4 in college football. I've got 2 plays up on this limited card on Friday out of the 4 games. I'm still working on the Saturday card. I've got 1 play up there now with more to come. And hockey, yesterday I split out in hockey after sweeping the day before. So hockey's gone very well. Baseball had gone well until that damn 5-star yesterday. But everything's up right there. They do have that great weekend warrior special. We can get all of our football plays. That's a great way to take care of that. I'll have a lot of plays up. I've got an NFL play up already. And you've already got probably my best baseball play. So if I do put that up, no need to buy that, is I will be using the over in the Toronto game.
It makes me laugh because it's I will joke that it's like a market that's borderline impossible to beat long term. NFL, very, very tough market to beat. But right now, that's where my wins are coming. I'm not gonna ask questions, Brian. If they're cashing, I'm just gonna keep firing them in. Not gonna ask questions. So going for my 5th straight NFL winner this Sunday, 5%er, back-to-back 5% wins in the NFL last week, and going back to the prior week. I think I'm up 15 or 16 units roughly in the NFL this season. So even though that league is again, it'll likely come to an end at some point. There is a reason that sports books like are offering you minus 103 lines on NFL sides and totals. I'm not going to complain. While it's going good, I'm going to lean into it. So I have a 5% play in the NFL on Sunday that I really like, and that's what I'm going to promote on the show. In the chat, someone, we got rained out. Yeah, that I was all ready to get my Mariners money back in the KBO this morning, and they got rained out. So we'll see. The thing that sucks about that is I usually beat the number in KBO, and then if the matchup, if it gets pushed back, the books know they correct. So it's like I don't know if I'll have my line value. I don't know if I'll be able to make that same bet, but if I can, I'll just be betting it again. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be on that. It would be tonight, technically, a late night game. So that one I gave out for free on last call. Yes, or not last call, whatever we're calling the show with Joe, Madden, primetime picks. I gave it out there. If you're smart, you can go into last 20 on my Wager Talk page and just see the game that got rained out. That'll be the KBO play that's up for the night because it automatically goes there. It'll say no action. So a little trick for you guys right there. And you know what? I'll actually, because of that, I will likely post it to my free picks page. So on Wager Talk, we all try to put up as many free picks as possible. You can access them all by just going right to the website, clicking free picks at the top of the site. Everyone that's got a free pick loaded will be in a nice order. You can see what people are giving away for free. And then you can also right underneath it see what people have for sale. We'll be back. I think assuming we have games. Let me just do a quick check of the schedule. So basically, the way Total Base is going to work the rest of the year, as long as there's a game on a given day, on a weekday, we will be here. So my gut tells me that Monday, you know what? So Monday, we'll see. If there's a game 7 in Mariners Blue Jays, we'll be here. If there's a game 6 in Dodgers Brewers, we'll also be here, but that one looks less likely. So the shows for early next week are TBA, but if these two series somehow end before Monday, we'll see you when the World Series starts. So that's just kind of a programming note right there, but we're not going anywhere. We're going to finish out the season. It's been a great season. I think this is our highest view count live of the whole playoffs so far. So appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully you guys learned something today. That's always the goal. Maybe it helped you make a bet. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. Cash your tickets. Enjoy the football. And we'll see you when we see you. Hopefully Monday. I'd love to come back here Monday morning to talk Game 7 Mariners Blue Jays. That would make me happy. So hopefully we'll see you guys on Monday.